Hey everybody, and welcome to the weekly scopes from the 21st of September until the 27th of September. Hi everybody, and welcome to this week's weekly scopes. If you've heard this before, you can skip, but this is just the intro on how I formulate these astrology weekly readings. I use astrology and my intuition to give you advice how you can practically use the knowledge of the stars and the planets and apply them to your life. So my weekly scopes are all based on GMT time and on Vedic Constellational Astrology. So now I'm just going to explain what Vedic Constellation Astrology is and how it differs from Western astrology. So the precession of the equinox is sort of like something that happens in astronomy and astrology, where the Earth's axis undergoes a slow circular motion over 26,000 years, and basically this means that this motion causes a shift in the position of the equinoxes, and also the calculation Vedic and Western astrologies use. So around 2,000 years ago, the tropical and sidereal Vedic astrology signs of astrology were aligned in the same position. So if the sun was in Scorpio in Vedic astrology, it was also in the constellation of Scorpio in Western astrology. But because of the precession of the equinoxes, this has caused a gradual westward sort of like drift of the tropical Western signs. So basically these signs, the Western signs, shift 1 degree with every 72 years. So as a result of this ongoing shift, when Western astrology says the sun is in the constellation of Pisces, it's typically in the constellation of Aquarius. Still, this is because the degree, orb and the date for Western and Vedic astrology are 24 degrees, 24 days apart. So in Western astrology, the sun enters the constellation of Pisces around the 19th of February each year, but actually the sun doesn't arrive into the constellation of Pisces until the 13th to the 15th of March each year, and Vedic astrology takes this into account because it's based on the fixed star positions, and Vedic astrologers use sidereal calculations. So as a result, Vedic astrology takes into account the actual positions of the constellations in the sky at any given time, and also considers the precession of the equinox, adjusting for the shift in the position of the equinoxes over time. But in terms of Western astrology follows the tropical zodiac, which is based on the seasons rather than fixed star positions. Western astrologers also do not directly account for the precession of the equinox in their calculations as well, so this results in slightly different calculations and interpretations that are given whether we're using Western astrology or Vedic astrology. So yeah, as I said, Western astrology uses specific dates, so every year, regardless of where the sun actually is at the sky, the sun moves into Pisces around the 19th of February. So yeah, this discrepancy, this misalignment between the tropical zodiac and the actual positions of the constellations has led to a discrepancy between Vedic astrology and Western astrology. So I consider the actual where the sun and the moon are and where Mars and Venus are at any given time, and this is how I formulate these sort of like weekly scopes. So yeah, thanks for listening to this, and let's dive into this week's weekly scope. Okay, so now I'm just going to explain what parallels and contra parallels are in astrology, because I use them in my chart interpretation. So declination in astrology is the measure of how far a celestial body is, such as the sun, whether it's either north or south of the celestial equator. And the celestial equator is an imaginary line in the sky above the Earth's equator, which us astrologers use in our interpretation. So parallels happen when two planets are on the same declination. Either both planets are on the north side side, or either both planets are on the south side, and this alignment increases the influence of the involved planets. So it's similar to a conjunction aspect, as it amplifies their energy, making the effects of the planets more pronounced. Contraparallels, on the other hand, happen when two planets are on the same declination, but one is in the north and one is in the south. So this alignment creates tension, which is similar to an opposition aspect, and it can lead to conflict, challenges and inner struggles between the energies of the planets involved. So contraparallels highlight areas of friction or contrast in our lives, urging us to find balance between the opposing forces at play. When transiting parallels and contraparallels happen, they can sort of trigger significant events, shifting consciousness and periods of intense growth and transformation. So I look at these aspects closely during chart analysis to understand how planetary energies interact and influence each other during a specific time frame, to pinpoint key periods for personal development, relationship dynamics or career shifts, and other shifts like karmic shifts and stuff like that. Because I just find using contraparallels and parallels gives me more depth in interpretation, so I use them. So contraparallels and parallels in astrology serve as markers for potential challenges or breakthroughs, guiding us towards more self-awareness, love, acceptance, understanding, forgiveness for ourselves and others, and shifts in consciousness and growth. So overall, just a shift in our mindset if we allow for it. So parallels and contraparallels just kind of provide valuable insights into the complexities and nuances of the astrological interactions between planetary movements. So yeah, that's the end of what contraparallels and parallels are. Okay, so this week we've got a few aspects that are influencing us for the week. So first we've got Mercury making a parallel to Neptune, which is the same as a conjunction, and this entered on the 18th of September, is exact at 2:21 a.m. on the 21st of September, and leaves us on the 23rd of September. Then we've got Venus making a contra parallel to Mars, and this entered on the 18th of September, is exact on the 22nd of September at 12:02 a.m. and leaves us on the 25th of September. And we've got the Sun making a semi-sextile to Mars, and this enters on the 20th of September, is exact on the 23rd of September at 6 p.m. and leaves us on the 27th of September. And then we've got Venus making a parallel to Chiron, and this is exact on the 23rd of September at 7:19 p.m. and leaves us on the 28th of September. Then we've got the Sun making a parallel to Neptune, and this entered on the 20th of September. It's exact at 7:36 a.m. on the 25th of September and leaves us on the 30th of September. And then we've got Mercury making a parallel to the Moon's North Node, and this is exact at 10:24 p.m. on the 25th of September and leaves us on the 28th of September. So as you can see, there's a lot going on this week. Yeah. So ultimately, this week's astrology is a fascinating mix of mental clarity, awareness and focus, but it also brings emotional tension, and it wants us to take practical action, and a lot of aspects are allowing us to do so. So Mercury's parallel to Neptune is like a meeting of the mind, Mercury energy with the spiritual realm, which is represented by Neptune, the 12th house, the psychic abilities, addictions, the things that we keep hidden from others, or things that others keep from us, secret enemies, hospitals, institutions, the way we imprison ourselves, the way we are imprisoned, right? And this increases our intuition and imagination. And then we've got Venus making a contraparallel to Mars, and this is the planets of love, which is Venus and action, Mars opposite declinations, and this brings like a dynamic tension between feminine and masculine energy. So this week, we will have a kind of battle between our yin and yang, our doing and our emotions, and then the sun semi-sextile to Mars is, really a nice sort of energy, but beneficial between our core identity and our drive, Mars in Libra, right? And this can cause friction between taking creative action and remaining stuck, and being egotistical or working with others. Venus's parallel to Chiron creates the potential for us to heal what needs to be healed in a relationship with ourselves and others. The sun's parallel to Neptune increases our compassion and empathy, and also our imagination this week. And Mercury's parallel to the North Node can bring clarity about what steps we need to take to move forward in our life. So in terms of the Sabian symbols this week, the Sun and Mars are both at 7 degrees. The Sun at 7 degrees Virgo, Mars at 7 degrees Libra, and the Sun at 7 degree Virgo, which has the Sabian symbology of a harem, represents the ordering, the structuring of our emotional energies, and having a proper relationship between various aspects of ourselves. It symbolizes the need for integration of the different parts of our personality and allowing ourselves to work under a unified purpose, to unite all the different aspects of ourselves, the pleasant side, the naughty side, our sexual repressed side with our sexual liberated side and all of that, right? And Mars at 7 degrees of Libra, which has the Sabian symbol, a woman feeding chickens and protecting them from hawks, represents, protective nurturing of brand new emerging consciousness. So we may have for a while now, or some of you this week may start wanting to live a new life or be more authentic in your life and be more of your authentic self, and this Sabian symbol reminds us to nurture that nascent, that brand new consciousness, the brand new idea, right? And we have to balance between allowing things to develop naturally while still providing protection. So ultimately, these symbols, the way they interact this week, a powerful theme emerges, right, about protecting our inner emotional world, the harem, while at the same time nurturing new relationships or ideas, represented by the feeding chickens, and defending them from harmful influences, which is represented by the hawk. So this can be toxic relationships, toxic parts of your own personality as well. So ultimately, this week is a week of careful emotional development, and Mercury's parallel to Neptune shows us that our intuitive insights, our gut feelings can help us understand which parts of ourselves need protection and which need expression this week, and we can find ourselves, sorting through various emotional aspects and parts of our life this week, deciding which to nurture and which to transform and change. So that's the summary version. Now I'm going to go in depth about this week's aspects in more depth and look at how it affects our relationships and give guidance for each zodiac sign and affirmations as well, and then look at the day-to-day transits and how they interact. But if you like the short version, that's it. Go away and enjoy the rest of the week. If you want to go in depth and explore, keep on listening. So Mercury parallel to Neptune is exact on the 21st of September, as I said, and as I said, it increases our intuition, creativity, allowing for deeper insights and imaginative thinking and psychic awareness, and the ability to connect with others and ourselves on the spiritual level as well, and have greater empathy and understanding when communicating with others. But it can bring confusion and miscommunication, so we have to check facts, and give ourselves the time and space to take in information as well. We can escape reality or avoid practical matters, and there's a risk of being idealistic or unrealistic as well. So the best use of this energy is to be open to your creative side, spend time in creative activities and meditation to tap into our intuition, but be mindful of grounding ourselves in reality, really important, so we don't get lost in fantasy, right? And also, with all Neptune energy, it can always make us want to escape into our addictive personality side or intoxicating substances or relationships, so we have to watch out for that. Venus is contra to Mars, as I said, brings tension between our desires and actions in our relationships, but positively it increases our passion and attraction in romantic relationships. It gives us the opportunity for more assertive communication about our desires and setting boundaries, and it's great for creative teamwork. But negatively, it can add to the misunderstandings in relationships. We can have conflicts between our love nature and our desire nature, the side of us that wants to spend time and have deep and meaningful conversations, and the side of us who just wants to hook up, and we can also act impulsively in love. So the best use of this energy is to focus on open communication, use this time to express your desires clearly, be cautious of impulsive actions and words, and balance our passion with being patient and checking the facts, right? The sun semi-sextile to Mars, so we've got double Mars energy this week, and this is, like I said, a harmonious energy, and again it brings us increasing our energy levels, assertiveness, and we can be more productive in our action, so really good for those projects we've been stuck on, starting new things, finishing our projects, increases our motivation and ability to start things, and it's great for personal growth. But negatively, it can add to frustration this week, especially if people don't recognise the hard work that we're doing for some of you, and we can overextend ourselves. We can do too much as well. So only take on what you can manage with this energy, right? But ultimately, use this energy to be productive this week. Set clear goals and take decisive action, and remember to pace yourself to avoid burnout. Venus's parallel to Chiron is exact on the 23rd, and it brings self-love. It encourages us to be more compassionate and vulnerable with ourselves and in our relationships this week. It helps us to heal past wounds in relationships, increases our self-acceptance, forgiveness, understanding, awareness and love. We can have more compassion towards ourselves and others, as I said. It allows us to face unresolved emotional issues, but it can be challenging to do so as well, and we can be more sensitive in relationships as well. So we can use this energy to reflect on our relationships and identify areas that need healing, spending time in self-care practices and being open to discussing feelings with loved ones is a powerful time for emotional growth. So we've got the sun making a parallel to Neptune, and again this helps develop our spiritual awareness, creativity, and encourages a deeper connection to the divine and within us. And it also can make us feel more inspired to reach our goals, especially our spiritual development goals. And it's great for self-reflection and meditation, but also it adds to us wanting to escape and avoid reality as well. And it adds to the confusion and lack of clarity that can happen this week, because Neptune energy can always make us want to escape and not meet our responsibilities, right? So the best use of this energy is to be open to spiritual practices and increase our connection with our higher self and our higher power, but be cautious once again of getting lost in fantasies, and make sure you ground your insights and ideas into reality and practical action. And then we've got Mercury making a parallel to the moon's north node, so again it encourages us to communicate with others and ourselves and really learn things this week that align with our life path and purpose. It gives us the opportunity for meaningful conversations, improving our clarity about our future goals, and it increases our awareness of the ways that we can grow, because a lot of the time in life we think, I'm too old to change, or I'm too old to do the career I really want, and of course there's some things that we cannot do. but there's a lot of things that we still can do as we age, Also negatively, this energy can add to us overthinking or having anxiety about the future, and add to the miscommunication, especially about our life direction and routine and habits and relationships this week. So the best use of this energy is to focus on setting intentions for your future, spend time in discussions which align with your goals, and it's a great time to seek guidance or mentorship that can help you on your path, So in terms of the weekly energy patterns of all these aspects, positively, as I said, Mercury's Neptune energy increases our intuition and psychic sensitivity. We can have artistic breakthroughs and creative inspiration because of this. We can heal our emotional wounds in relationships. We can have a clearer vision of our future path because we can have increased compassion for ourselves and others. It can really make us apply our spiritual sort of ideas and insights practically into our life, and daily routines, and it helps us to find that balance between our needs for love and affection and nurturing and protecting ourselves in relationships, and it just gives us the ability to organise complex emotional situations and feelings so we can understand them and manage them. But negatively this week, we can have a lot of confusion or mental fog. There can be a tension between our desire, like we may desire to spend all of our rent money on a brand new pair of shoes or computer or game or whatever, but we need to think about the need for a home and car or whatever it is you're thinking of taking the money from what area of your life to spend frivolously. And so it brings that tension between our desire and our action, and we can find it hard to tell the difference between fantasy and reality, and it adds to our emotional sensitivity, and we can just feel overwhelmed this week, and it can trigger our old wounds, and we can have over idealization of our partners and situation because of Neptune influences, right? Because Neptune energy can always make us open to manipulation, or we can manipulate others. We may want to be deceived, we can ignore red flags, get lost in fantasy and ignore the practicalities. We can also overthink this week because of the Mercury Neptune with the Sun in Virgo energy as well, especially when trying to make decisions. So we just need to take time out, step by step, making those decisions, and if you can't, instead of overthinking, take some time out to relax. And sometimes when we fall into overthinking, because sometimes we're not trying to, it's just a habit, right, of being an overthinker myself. So sometimes when we relax, when we're prone to overthinking, the solution can just come naturally, right? And again, we need to face practical matters and not escape this week as well. So we need to really tell the difference this week between genuine intuition and wishful thinking, taking a balanced approach between logic, right, rationalizing, and our spiritual intuitive side, trusting our gut feelings but also verifying important facts. Venus's contra parallel to Mars can bring tension to our relationships. One person may want closeness while the other may need space. So it's all about finding the middle ground through clear communication. The Sun-Mars sextile means that taking small practical actions can be more effective this week than big steps and rushing, trying to just tick boxes and grand gestures, especially in our relationship. Instead of buying that diamond ring, how about running a nice bath, cooking a nice meal, massaging your partner's feet, something nice and small, taking the bins out, fixing that shelf they've been wanting you to do, or any other household task that you've been, putting off. Break down larger goals into manageable steps and plan your steps based on what you've learned throughout the week, as Mercury's North Node parallel, really gets us that as the week goes on. So ultimately, in terms of how it affects our career and business this week is a good time for brainstorming, marketing campaigns, or any other work that requires imagination, but make sure you double check all details. As we can overlook practical matters this week. As I said, we have to take more of a methodical approach and projects. It's not about grand leaps, but rather consistent, measured progress. And networking and connecting with mentors could also open unexpected doors. In terms of friendships this week, they can benefit from the compassionate energy of the Sun's parallel to Neptune. We can feel more understanding of other situations and be able to offer support without judgment, but we just have to be mindful of boundaries, as Neptune can sometimes blur these lines. Venus's Chiron parallel can really allow us to heal what needs healing in our friendships this week, and we may have conversations that we've been putting off for ages that can actually happen now, and we have to make sure that, you know, we're coming from a place of genuine care rather than old patterns and trying to prove a point right. In romantic relationships, Venus's contra-parallel to Mars creates an interesting dynamic. There can be a lot of push and pull energy, a lot of tension, as I said, that can create passionate tension or frustration. If you are in a relationship, you might notice one person is looking for closeness while the other needs independence. We can also, if you are single, you can meet people who challenge your usual type, and you may be standoffish at first, you know, but don't ignore red flags, but at the same time be open to newness as well. And Mercury's North Node parallel helps us recognize patterns in our relationship choices, and it helps us to make changes that need to be made that align with our future goals, you know, because we may have a future goal of wanting to settle down, buy a house and stuff, but the partner we're with don't want those things, and there's nothing wrong. We've all got different needs and desires, but just making sure that your relationships are in line with what you truly want in your life. If you're self-partnered, it's a great opportunity to reconnect with your intuitive side. It supports meditation, journaling, or any practice that helps you listen to your inner voice. It encourages us to be gentler with ourselves, especially around old emotional wounds. We can experience a deeper sense of connection to our spiritual core, and this alignment supports compassionate self-understanding and forgiveness from past mistakes. So ultimately, in terms of the best actions to take this week, journal about any recurring dreams or intuitive hits that come up, because your subconscious can be more accessible than usual because of Mercury's parallel to Neptune, and we can create a vision board for our next 6 months, because the Mercury North Node parallel supports future planning with intuitive guidance, and we can have heart-to-heart conversations with someone who we've been misunderstanding, because Venus Chiron energy, right, supports healing discussions. So take one small practical step towards a creative project each day, because Sun set star Mars supports consistent measured action. Practice a daily meditation, focus on compassion, because the Sun's parallel to Neptune increases our ability to connect with universal love. Organize our emotional health, because the Virgo Sun energy supports sorting through our feelings methodically, you know, and protect your energy while remaining open, you know, like the woman protecting her chickens from the hawks. Maintain healthy boundaries, balance giving and receiving in relationships, because Venus's Mars contra-parallel, you know, wants us to find that balance and check facts before making important decisions, because Neptune influence can really cloud our judgment, and we've got 2 aspects with Neptune in this week, you know, so it's important to check information and create art or anything else that expresses complex emotions, you know, as this week's mix of Neptune, Venus and Chiron energy supports this emotional expression through creative channels, you know. So yeah, so now I'm just going to talk about the combined weekly meanings on the psychological, karmic and spiritual and esoteric level, right? So psychologically, Mercury's parallel to Neptune this week allows us to be more sensitive to the feelings of others. Karmically encourages us to be open to our creative gifts and trust our intuition, and this can lead to personal growth and understanding of our spiritual path. Spiritually, you know, we can have deep realizations guiding us towards our true purpose, as the connection to our higher self and the divine can be higher, right? It invites us to explore the depths of our psyche on the esoteric level, revealing hidden truths and developing a greater understanding of our spiritual journey. Venus's contra-parallel to Mars pushes us to examine our needs and assertiveness, because it can bring up feelings of desire and conflict in our relationships. Karmically, it wants us to balance our love and desire nature, teaching us to communicate our needs effectively while respecting our own and others' boundaries. And if you don't know your boundaries, spend time thinking about them, and if you're unsure of other people's boundaries, ask them. Spiritually, it wants us to grow in our relationships this week, and esoterically it highlights the dance between love and desire, and it wants us to find harmony in our relationships, right? The Sun semi-set star to Mars wants us to take action towards our goals and improves our confidence to do so psychologically. Karmically, it wants us to be open to our power and think about why we don't use our power, or why we abuse our power if we do that right, and be more assertive in our action and respect others' ability and right to do so too. Spiritually, it wants us to develop a sense of happiness and align our actions and words and relationships and routines with our highest purpose and pathway. And esoterically, it kind of puts the spotlight on the importance of taking initiative in our spiritual journey. Venus's parallel to Chiron, really pushes us to confront emotional wounds in relationships, really encouraging self-acceptance and healing. Karmically, it wants us to be more vulnerable, teaching us to be open to our true self. Spiritually, Venus's parallel to Chiron guides us towards emotional growth by helping us understand love and healing more. Esoterically, it wants us to heal through love and compassion, and rather through competition and hate, right? The Sun's parallel to Neptune encourages our, self-reflection and creativity psychologically, increasing our spiritual awareness. Karmically, it wants us to trust our intuition and be open to our spiritual gifts and practice in the spiritual realm. Spiritually, it wants us and guides us to our highest purpose. Esoterically, it really supports us to explore the depths of our spirituality. Mercury's parallel to the Moon's North Node psychologically increases our understanding of our personal growth. Karmically, it wants us to align our communication with our true self, developing more understanding of ourselves, only speaking and trying to think thoughts that are positive, or not so much positive, but authentic to you, right? Spiritually, it guides us towards our highest life path, and esoterically, it again puts a spotlight on the importance of communication in your spiritual journey. So ultimately this week, all of these energies on the karmic, psychological and esoteric levels, right, and spiritual levels, wants us to have a deep exploration, look into our relationships, creativity and personal growth. It wants us to navigate, deal with the complexities of love and desire while being open to our intuitive gifts, and it's a powerful time for healing and self-discovery. And it wants us to be open to the spiritual insights that come up and allow them to guide you on your journey. So ultimately this week, it's really wants us to watch for passive aggressive behavior, especially when we get to the 22nd, right? We can have an increase in intuition, but also confusion between the 21st and 23rd, so watch out for that. On the 23rd, the Sun semi-set star to Mars and Venus's parallel to Chiron helps us with our healing ourselves and relationships and having important conversations about sensitive issues. On the 25th, the Sun's parallel with Neptune and Mercury's parallel with the North Node is the most spiritually potent day of the week. It's really good for meditation, intuitive work, and thinking about and clarifying your future direction, and it creates a window on the 25th of this week of September, right, for spiritual guidance about our path forward. And if we really want to integrate these energies, we have to understand that any confusion that Neptune brings this week serves a purpose. Sometimes we need to lose our bearings, our way, to find a new path. The combination of Neptune's spiritual vision with Virgo's practicality is a opportunity to ground our highest insights into touchable forms, right? And the woman feeding chicken symbology while watching for hawks wants us to nurture our dreams while still maintaining healthy judgment and discernment, right? And being open to subtle signs and synchronicities and trust in the mystery that's unfolding, but keep our feet firmly in reality. So in terms of soul searching questions to ask yourself this week, you can ask, what intuitive insights am I receiving now that I've been ignoring due to rational thinking? You can ask yourself, how can I nurture my emerging ideas or relationships while still protecting them from harmful influences? You can ask yourself, what old relationship wounds are ready to be healed with the compassionate energy available this week? Okay, so now I'm going to give weekly guidance for all the sun, moon and rising signs. So Aries, with your ruler Mars in Libra and forming aspects with the sun and Venus this week, is a week for you to find the balance between your assertion and cooperation, so people pleasing and meeting your own needs, right? And Venus's contra to Mars can create relationship tension for you this week, but it also offers passionate potential if you can deal with the push and pull energy between meeting your own needs and others, right? It's important for you to focus on what you genuinely want versus what others expect of you, right? Taurus, your ruler Venus making a parallel to Chiron, brings healing opportunities in relationships and creative experiences. You might feel more sensitive than usual, but this vulnerability allows for deeper relationships. It supports us, to work through material blocks related to self-worth and financial security. Trust your body's wisdom. And Gemini, with Mercury making a parallel to both Neptune and the North Node this week, your mental faculties, skills are both increased and challenged. You will have access to intuitive insights, but might struggle with practical details. The Jupiter trine energy supports communication that bridges logic in your thinking, right, with emotional understanding. Write down any intuitive insights you get, as they can provide valuable guidance later. Cancer, the sun parallel to Neptune activates your empathetic nature and spiritual sensitivity, and you may find yourself absorbing other emotions more than usual this week, so be intentional about your energetic boundaries this week. And Venus's and Mars's tension, right, supports finding balance between nurturing others and nurturing yourself. Family patterns may emerge for you to heal, right? Leo, with the sun forming aspects to both Mars and Neptune, you can be dealing with the tension between practical action and spiritual surrender. This week and its energies can help you shine your light in service rather than for recognition. The semi-sextile to Mars shows that small, consistent actions will move you forward more effectively than grand gestures, right? And creative inspiration can be increased. Virgo, with both Mercury and the Sun in your sign forming significant aspects, this is a powerful week for personal growth. The parallel between Mercury and Neptune increases your intuition while also challenging your usual precision and care, allowing some beneficial chaos into your usually ordered world. To discover new possibilities can be really good for you this week, to kind of break routine, Virgo. Libra, with Mars in your sign forming aspects with both Venus and the Sun, relationships can take central stage, and the contra-parallel between your ruler Venus and Mars creates dynamic tension in partnerships, and the dance between closeness and independence supports you finding a new balance in how you relate to others, particularly in standing your ground while maintaining harmony. Scorpio, the Neptune influence this week activates your spiritual and creative areas, bringing powerful insights through dreams and meditation. The Mercury North Node parallel helps you connect these insights to your long-term goals, and this energy supports transformation through letting go of control and trusting the process. Pay attention to what comes from your subconscious this week. Sagittarius, the Neptune aspects this week can challenge your usual straightforward approach, bringing subtlety to situations. Spending time to connect with your community and like-minded groups can help support your personal growth, and the Sun-Mars semi-sextile activates tension between your individual goals and group experiences this week. Capricorn, it activates your career and public sectors this week. The practical Virgo energy supports, methodological, logical progress this week, and Neptune's influence adds creative inspiration to your professional area, and Venus's Chiron parallel can bring healing around issues of recognition and reward. It's important for you to balance ambition, going after your goals this week, with self-care to avoid burnout and to get the best results, right, Aquarius? You can have intellectual breakthroughs about your future direction because of, the parallel with the North Node and Mercury, and the North Node's in your sign, right? And this aspect supports expanding your mental horizons, limits, right? Through study, travel or conversations with mentors. Neptune influence helps you connect rational understanding with intuitive knowing, trust insights that come through unusual channels. And Pisces, with Neptune forming parallels with both Mercury and the Sun, your psychic sensitivity is increased this week, and it supports deep emotional healing, particularly around shared resources and intimate relationships. And the Venus Chiron parallel Pisces helps heal wounds related to intimacy and vulnerability, so it's important to set gentle boundaries to avoid energetic overwhelm this week, right? So in terms of mantras, Aries, I balance my fierce drive with diplomatic consideration, finding strength in flexibility and power in partnerships. Taurus, I open myself to healing touch, allowing vulnerability to strengthen rather than weaken my foundations of self-worth. Gemini, I trust the messages coming through intuitive channels, balancing logical analysis with the wisdom of higher mind. Cancer, I create sacred boundaries that protect my sensitivity while allowing me to nurture others from a place of fullness. Leo, I shine my light not for recognition but as a service, taking consistent small actions that align with my authentic self. Virgo, I'm open to the creative chaos that disrupts my plans, finding deeper order within apparent disorder and wisdom within uncertainty. Libra, I honour both my need for connection and my need for independence, finding the balance point that serves my highest good. Scorpio, I surrender to the depths of my unconscious wisdom, allowing transformation to happen naturally rather than forcing change. Sagittarius, I balance my openness to new experiences with practical steps, finding freedom within structure and adventure within commitment. Capricorn, I balance achievement with inner happiness, recognizing that true success includes both material and spiritual well-being. Aquarius, I follow the breadcrumbs of synchronicity toward my future, trusting that apparent detours are actually direct paths to my evolution. Pisces, I honour my sensitivity as a gift rather than a liability, setting loving boundaries that allow me to serve without depleting myself. So, in terms of content to create this week, content creators can do well to tap into the powerful Neptune energy that increases imagination and creative inspiration. The Mercury-Neptune parallel at the start of the week makes this a nice time for brainstorming, creative writing, visual arts or music production. You likely have access to the deeper layers of creativity than usual, but this same energy can lead to scattered focus, so I recommend creating a simple routine to capture your ideas. Keep a notebook handy for sudden inspiration, as they may come at unexpected times, particularly during meditation or just before sleep. And the Sun semi-sextile to Mars supports taking consistent, small actions on creative projects rather than waiting for perfect conditions. So, even 15 to 30 minutes of daily creative work will get significant results under this influence, And the Mercury North Node Power House symbolises creating content that helps your audience connect present actions with future goals. So content about intuitive decision making, following synchronistic signs, or healing emotional blocks to success can resonate strongly. For visual content creators, the Venus Chiron Power House supports authentic sharing about personal growth and healing. Vulnerability in your content will connect deeply with your audience this week, particularly if you can balance emotional honesty with practical guidance. The overall Neptune theme supports content related to spirituality, meditation, dreams, or creative imagination. And if you're normally more practical in your content, this week offers a unique opportunity to add more inspirational or spiritual dimensions to your work. So remember to double check facts before publishing, as Neptune's influence can sometimes lead to overlooking important information. But also trust your creative flow this week, but also verify the practical elements before sharing with your audience as well. Like, how can this spiritual insight be practically applied into my audience's day-to-day life? So now I'm just going to talk about the day-to-day aspects that are influencing this week's main themes, right? So on the 21st of September, we've got the Moon's North Node going retrograde at 13 minutes past midnight. Mercury's power to Neptune's exact at 2:21. The Moon enters void, of course, at 5:54 a.m. The Sun makes an opposition to Saturn at 6:46. And the Sun's in Virgo, right, and Saturn's in Pisces, and this lasts for 3 days. The Moon enters Virgo at 11:28 a.m. and there's a solar eclipse new moon in Virgo as well, which I've done a separate special on, but I'll talk about it briefly today. So today is a day of deep new beginnings and karmic reckonings, reality check and truth bombs. Well, that's the theme of this week, right? So the Moon's North Node retrograde adds to us being able to self-reflect and take some time out, right? But it can bring a sense of feeling stuck and uncertain about our life path. It allows us to realign with our true north, our life purpose, if we tap into that energy. The Moon going void, of course, allows us to tie up the loose ends, self-reflect as well. It may be best for you to relax during this time and avoid making any major decisions until when the Moon enters Virgo. The Sun's opposition to Saturn allows us to have more clarity about our boundaries and responsibilities, right? But it can just make us feel pessimistic and heavy right now. We can have issues with self-doubt. The best use of this energy is to face our challenges head on and commit to long-term goals. When the Moon enters Virgo, it improves our attention to detail and practical problem solving, but it can trigger perfectionism and nitpicking. It allows us to organise, declutter and focus on healthy routines. The solar eclipse new moon in Virgo is a good time for rest and to reset our habits, right, and service, and it can bring sudden changes or emotional upheaval. It's best used to set intentions for healing, self-improvement and practical new beginnings, right? So ultimately today demands maturity and practical renewal because of the Sun's opposition to Saturn and the eclipse in Virgo, right? The eclipse offers us a clean slate if we're willing to do the hard work, although we may feel the weight of responsibility because of the Sun's opposition to Saturn that can pull us in the direction of discipline and meeting our ego needs, right? So we have to find a balance between those expressions, and it ultimately highlights the tension between practical service and spiritual community, the Sun and Saturn energy, right? And it asks us, can you ground your dreams in reality? Because that's what we really need to do today. And ultimately, if we feel the push to let go of old patterns, relationships and whatever and step into the new, we should do so and step into the more responsible version of ourselves as well, and not to shy away from the hard work. Today can be a day of reckoning, reality checks, but positively, increases our self-awareness. It allows us to make powerful new beginnings in our health or work routines, adds to our increased intuition inspiration and creativity, but it can add to us feeling emotionally overwhelmed, confused and filled with self-doubt, and sudden changes can disrupt our plans, We can also feel more anxious and perfectionistic as well. The best use of today's energy is to set clear, practical intentions, face our responsibilities with courage, meditate or journal for insight, and declutter and organize our space, right? So ultimately, in terms of our career and relationships, our professional life demands accountability right now, so we should show up and deliver. Relationships can feel tested. Be honest, set boundaries and support each other through change, In terms of the Jungian shadow prompt, you can ask yourself, where do you avoid responsibility or escape into fantasy when life gets tough? Reflect on how you can bring more groundedness to your dreams today. And, ultimately, as I said earlier, write down 3 practical intentions for the next 6 months or more. Meditate on the balance between duty and dreams. Declutter one area of your home or workspace to welcome the new energy, and be open to both the mystical and the practical. Today is a really big chance, because of this solar eclipse in Virgo, right, to make change and have a fresh start, so don't waste it. On the 22nd of September, Venus's contraparallel to Mars is exact at 3 minutes past midnight, and there's an autumn equinox at 7:20 p.m, right? So it's a day of turning points, continuing yesterday's energy, right? So the autumn equinox allows us to find the perfect balance between day and night, inviting reflection and renewal, right? Because we're about to move into the winter season slowly after the next 3 months. We can also bring up feelings of uncertainty. It allows us to pause, to set intentions for the coming months. You may think, I haven't done any work towards my New Year resolutions, as many of us do, what we set in January 2025, but we've got, at least 3 months now to really home in and start those goals. There's no time like the present. It brings an astrological reset that stirs up our passion and motivation as well, and also it wants us to bring more harmony into our relationship, more harmony within ourselves, and to sort of weigh up our passionate motivation drives with self-control as well, and to integrate desire with being fair to ourselves and others, and step into a new chapter of our life as well. So ultimately, today's energy are a mix of fiery drive, motivation and composed self-control, balance. It wants us to mix passion with peace, self-reflection with action, right? And it allows us to have a reset for our goals and renews our motivation for our goals. We may feel an increased attraction and more creative inspiration. Adding to the main theme of this week, it gives us an opportunity for honest, passionate conversation as well, and it brings a good sense of renewal, reset and balance as well. But it can add to the arguments and misunderstandings that can come up in relationships, and impulsive spending and decisions that we can do this week. We can feel torn between action and rest as well, and emotional mood swings can be increased because of the seasonal change from summer to autumn in if you live in areas, the UK and other areas that move into autumn now. So the best use of this energy is to set new intentions, meditate on balance, start creative projects, reignite romance for yourself or your partner, have heart to heart with someone important, reflect on what you want to achieve this autumn as well, work with others, don't compete, relationships can be passionate but they also require compromise, working together, and in terms of the shadow work prompt, you can ask yourself, where do you let passion override your need for balance? Reflect on how you can honour both your desire and your need for harmony as well. So you could light a candle and journal about what you want to release and invite in this equinox. Channel creative or romantic energy into touchable projects, and practice a grounded meditation to center yourself during the changing energies. On the 23rd of September, Mars makes a quincunx to Neptune at 12:01, and Mars is in Libra and Neptune's in Pisces. The Sun makes an opposition to Neptune at 1:54, and both of these energies last us for 3 days. Mercury's parallel to Saturn is exact at 7:37, and the Sun semi-sextile to Mars is exact at 6:10 today, and Venus is parallel to Chiron is exact at 7:19 today, right? So there's a lot going on. And also the Moon enters Libra at 10:26 after going void of course at 5:02 p.m. today. So ultimately today's energies add to our spiritual drive and creative solutions. That's Mars, Quinquats, Neptune's influence. We can also add to the confusion and scattered energy and feeling loss. The Sun's opposition to Neptune adds to us being empathetic to ourselves and others and intuitive. It's a great energy to use along with Mars's Quinquats and Neptune for gentle movement, art and meditation, right, and making decisions based on clarity. But we have to make sure that we double check facts as well as trust our gut feelings, right? Venus is parallel to Chiron, and the Sun semi-sextile to Mars, and Mercury's parallel to Saturn. I talked about these earlier. The Moon void, of course, allows us to reflect, the Moon entering Libra can lead to indecision and people pleasing negatively, but it adds to us being able to bring balance into our relationships as well. So ultimately today, energies allow us to anchor, ground our spiritual insights and intuitive creativity with practical steps. Healing is possible today, but only if you're honest about what hurts. So it's a great energy for emotional healing, honest conversations with a lot of energy support this week, improved focus, spiritual insight, but you can also add to the old wounds coming up and confusion and lack of motivation. You can ask yourself, where do you let fantasy or fear cloud your judgment, and how can you bring more honesty and compassion to those areas today? You can also benefit from writing down any dreams or intuitive flashes that come up today. Practice grounding exercises before making big decisions, and reach out to someone for a heart-to-heart and focus on healing and understanding rather than arguments and chaos today. On the 24th of September, the Sun makes a trine to Uranus at 3:54 a.m. and the Sun's in Virgo and Uranus is in Taurus. The Sun makes a trine to Pluto, and the Sun's in Virgo and Pluto's in Capricorn, and this is exact at 7:04 a.m. Mars' Quinquats to Uranus is exact at 8:14 a.m. Mars' square to Pluto is exact at 12:51 p.m. and all these aspects last for 2 days, right? So the Sun's trine to Uranus adds to us wanting to be innovative and come up with new solutions to old problems. It adds to sudden insights into our problems and our willingness to break free from old toxic patterns, right? But it can also add to the restlessness of this week, and we can be too eager to throw out what's working, so it can add to impulsive decisions. The best use of this energy is to be open to new ideas and experiment with fresh approaches, but also, keep old routines when necessary. Don't just not do them because you feel like you just want to blow your house down, mate. So what you change is what really needs changing. The Sun's trine to Pluto deepens our personal power, resilience and the ability to transform challenges, but we may be tempted to control situations or people. The best use of this energy is to focus on self-mastery and letting go of what no longer serves you. Mars' Quinquats to Uranus allows us to find creative solutions under pressure and be flexible to change, but it can add to the impulsive actions or accidents if we rush around. So it's best used to stay flexible and channel energy into constructive, productive change, right? Mars' square to Pluto adds to the motivation and determination determination and the courage to face hard issues head on. But again, it can add to the power struggles, anger, jealousy and obsessive behaviour that can happen this week. So the best use of this energy is to channel it into meaningful experiences, discussions and projects, and avoid unnecessary conflicts, while making sure we keep our self-control and be open to deep change, right? Trusting the process and taking action even when conditions ain't perfect, because a lot of time we're like, I can't do this because I don't have this or that. Today's energy wants us to make the start, even if there's chaos, even if you don't have all you need, finding a way to build your inner resilience, even if it is in isolation today, and trusting your inner fire to guide you through transformation as you find joy and happiness and uncertainty and the unknown, and dance with change, So, today works best if we stay grounded, increase our courage and resilience, but avoid power struggles and confrontation and restlessness and impulsive decisions, and feeling pressure to change too quickly as well, and try not to control others or outcomes, and do not allow others to control you. The best use of today's energy is to start new projects, continue working on new projects, try a different approach, release old habits and limiting beliefs, practice self-discipline and mindful action, channel energy into physical activity or creative work. If you're single, be open to independence and self-discovery in terms of work and career, pitch new and brave ideas, but avoid office politics and gossip. Relationships can feel intense, but focus on honest communication. And you can ask yourself, where do you resist change out of fear, and how can you transform the fear into creative action or self-mastery today? So ultimately today, try something new, big or small, to break a routine. Practice deep breathing or grounding exercise before reacting to stress. Reflect on recent challenges and write down how you've grown from it. On the 25th of September, Venus makes a semi-square to Jupiter at 10:50 a.m. The Moon enters via combustor at 4:33 a.m. The Sun's parallel to Neptune is exact at 7:37 a.m. Venus's biquintal to Pluto is exact at 3:40 p.m. and Mercury's parallel to the Moon's north node is exact today at 10:25 p.m. and the Moon enters its crescent moon phase at 10:26 p.m. So there's a lot going on today. So Venus' square to Jupiter adds to the optimism and social charm, making it easier to connect with others or repair relationship problems and enjoy life's pleasures, but it can also add to the overindulgent and extravagance and overspending and being unrealistic in love and money as well. So the best use of this energy is to savour the good things, but keep your feet on the ground. Don't promise more than you can deliver. Venus's biquintal to Pluto is nice sort of energy, and it allows for magnetic relationships and creative breakthroughs, but it can add to the jealousy, obsession and power struggles that can come up this week. It helps with honest conversations and transforming what's hidden into something beautiful. So secrets can come out, but we can, move forward from those and move forward through our problems. This energy allows us to do that. The Moon entering via combustor helps with deep emotional cleansing and release, but negatively it can make us feel more intense, unsettled or emotionally raw. It's best used to let go of old baggage and don't force outcomes. The crescent moon motivates new hope after the new moon, but it can bring up uncertainty or impatience. The best use of this energy is to take small inspired steps towards your goals, and avoid going overboard or getting caught up in power games. Ultimately, today's energy wants us to not be overburdened and drained, gives us the opportunity to begin again, and increase harmony within ourselves and find our authentic voice and happiness, especially after the chaos that can happen this week. It's a chance to start fresh and let our soul sing as we express our truths and find our truths, right? We can feel pulled today between overspending and overindulging and our purpose, but we have to find that balance and let go of what no longer serves us, which is the theme of this week really. It allows us to increase our intuition and spiritual awareness, have more clarity about our life direction as well, and have deep soulful relationships and conversation. It allows us to channel passion into art, music or writing, practice meditation or intuitive journaling, have honest, transformative conversations, and set clear intentions for your next steps, But again, watch out for over-promising. A lot of energy this week can make us overcommit and overpromise, right? Focus on honesty and depth, not drama and gossip, If you're single, trust your instincts about new relationships. So in terms of question to ask yourself today, you can ask, where do you look for pleasure or validation to avoid facing deeper truths, And how can you transform that desire, need for validation into authentic self-expression? So today's a day where you can really integrate the day's energy by meditating on what you truly want, creating something and having gentle, honest conversations with someone about your hope or fears, even if that person's just yourself, On the 26th of September, the moon enters void, of course, at 6:07. The moon enters Scorpio at 10:54, and the sun makes a quintile to Jupiter at 7:30 p.m. when the sun's in Virgo and Jupiter's in Gemini. So the moon in Scorpio adds to the emotional insight and intuition, and we can easily get to the root of matters of the heart, but you can also add to the feelings of jealousy, and people can be more looking for revenge and holding on to old grudges, The best use of this moon in Scorpio, right, is to self-reflect, heal and research and be open to your emotional truth. The sun's quintile to Jupiter adds optimism and a sense of luck and opportunity, motivating creative solutions, but it can lead to overconfidence or missing details. It's best used to take inspired action on ideas, but we have to double check the fine print, and ultimately today is about finding the gold in your own depths and letting intuition guide your next step, trusting your instincts while staying grounded and open to creative breakthroughs and lucky breaks that can come. That for some of you, today is a day of, the power of self-belief and perspective, being open to different ways of looking at things and second chances, right? And seeing beyond your current limitations and recognizing the fresh start waiting just out of sight, if you're willing to really let go of the past and allow yourself the opportunity to begin again, So today is a proper mix of emotional depth and visionary optimism, allowing us to do that inner work, that silent work that we really need to do, looking for hidden opportunities and being brave and open to new beginnings and healing, and gives us the ability to see beyond current problems, and perceived limitations or, actual limitations, allowing for lucky opportunities, creative breakthroughs, deep emotional healing and insight, and renewed sense of hope for some of you. But negatively, it can add to the overconfident of this week, of the overpromising, missing important details, and adds to the emotional intensity and jealousy and feeling unsettled that can come up as we change. It can give us the temptation to avoid the practicalities of change in life. The best use of this energy is to reflect on your goals and next steps, take inspired action on creative ideas, practice emotional honesty and self-care, look for silver linings and fresh starts, pitch brave ideas but check the details. Relationships can deepen, be honest about feelings but avoid drama. If you're single, trust your instincts about new relationships. So we can ask, where do you let the fear of the unknown hold you back from taking a chance, and how can you turn that fear into curiosity or hope today? Meditate on a challenge to integrate this energy and imagine a fresh start or new perspective. Write down 3 opportunities that are hidden in the current problem, because a lot of the time you can just think of the negatives, right? But there's always positives if we look for them. And share an honest feeling with someone you trust, inviting a deeper connection. So on the 27th of September, Mars makes a sextile quadrant with the Moon's North Node at 3:33 a.m. The Moon leaves via combustor at 5:17 p.m. and Mercury makes a sextile quadrant to Uranus at 11:39 p.m. So ultimately, Mars' sextile quadrant to the Moon's North Node allows us to be brave and make changes even if it feels uncomfortable, but it can add to the impatience and frustration and clashes with others over relationships and the direction you or they may want to take, right? So the best use of this energy is not to let irritation get in the way of your progress and take purposeful action towards your goals, you know. Mercury sextile quadrant to Uranus adds to the flashes of insight, intuitive thinking and the desire to break free from routine, supporting us to do that, but negatively it can add to the nervous tension of the week, scattered thoughts and confusion and communication problems, right? The best use of this energy is to be open to new ideas, double check facts and details before acting on sudden impulses, right? And as the moon leaves via combustor, emotional chaos can settle, bringing a sense of relief and clarity, but it can add to us feeling drained and in sort of out of balance and because of the recent intensity, right? So the best use of this energy is to take a breather, reflect and prepare for smoother emotional waters as the moon leaves via combustor, right, and Scorpio are together. So ultimately today can be a day of mental fireworks, expect the unexpected in conversation and plans, right? It's a day of restless energy and sudden realizations, but it wants us to be open-minded and flexible as, you know, the surprises come, and it wants us to deal with today's challenges with skill and openness to transformation and change while trusting in the universe and a higher power and ourselves as we are flexible to change, you know. It's about timing our mind's wild leaps and steering it to grow even if the path is unconventional, you know. And although change may not come as gentle as we like, it may not be pretty, change is the direction we need to go on as we get more brave in our thinking or continue to be brave in our thinking and actions and words, right? And remembering to keep our cool and having the courage to go after our true path, being open to sudden insights and creative ideas, and it brings emotional relief as the turbulence of the moon via combustor fades, right, and adds to the opportunities for intuitive and inventive solutions to our problems. But also we just need to watch out for communication misunderstandings and technological glitches, problems with technology, emails and conversations, right? And restlessness and impatience, today's energy adds to the week as we close down the week, as we feel like, you know, pulled in conflicting directions this week, right? There's been a lot going on and we can have a tendency to act before we think. The best week of today's energy and this week's energy is to brainstorm new approaches to old problems, take a step toward your long-term goals, practice mindfulness to steady your nerves and allow space for unexpected changes, you know, be flexible in your work and career and be ready to change direction and plans if need be. Relationships really benefit from honest, open-minded conversations today and this week. We have to avoid knee-jerk reactions to problems. In terms of the question to ask yourself today, you can ask yourself, where do you resist change out of fear of losing control, and how might being open to uncertainty actually lead to you closer to your purpose, you know. So to integrate today's and this week's energy, practice deep breathing or grounding when need be, write down unexpected ideas and insights, you know, and take small brave steps towards your goals even if it feels uncomfortable and risky, you know. So yeah, that's the end of this week's weekly scopes from the 21st of September to the 27th. I'm Amani, your holistic astrological life coach. Take care and see you next time.